Do you want to have the ultimate control over your life? Welcome to Take Control with Whitney Wells, where we will explore all topics of life that we try and control, what this creates for you, and how to have successful relationships all while empowering yourself. Keep listening and let's have some fun. Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 60 of Take Control with Whitney Wells. 60 is a fun number. I feel like it's like a small milestone. I hope you all had a great week. I hope you're having a great day. I want to apologize ahead of time because I have this kind of annoying cough, and I'm hoping that I don't cough in your ear. I don't edit these episodes. I like them to be imperfect and, show up with all their flaws and their, bumps and non-perfect aspects. So I apologize ahead of time if I cough at all. Now, I did take a COVID test and it was negative, so that is good. But this cough is annoying. So I'm sorry if that happens. It could, it may, and we'll just keep on moving. All right, today we are going to talk about when you feel offended. We're going to talk about feeling offended and all the options that you have. It's not just, it is how it is. You don't have to there's not just one thing that occurs and you feel offended and you have to put up with it. There are things you can do. There are ways you can go about it. There are ways to approach it. You have options. You can be more in control if you want to be. So keep listening if you want to hear some of these options, and you can try and apply them to your life if you want to. I always say that everything I offer on this podcast, it's just one way of doing things. So if it's not the way that you choose to, or you want to, or it's not the best way for you, that's totally fine. That's perfect for you. So these are just options, suggestions, different tools, different concepts that may be useful for you and maybe not, right? So ask yourself, have you ever felt offended by what someone said or did? If so, I want you to know that there are options. There are ways that you can move forward and be in control of your experience. So, before I get started, before I dive into all these options, I want to touch on that even though you have these options, even though that they're there, even though I'm saying, okay, you have these options to choose from, you can have a different experience, this does not mean that you have to. This doesn't mean you have to change anything at all. Yes, I believe that you are in control of the experience that you have, no matter what anyone says or does. But this doesn't mean that you should feel any differently. This does not mean that you shouldn't feel offended or that you should feel better. There is no right or wrong here. You get to decide. So first, let's look at what is actually happening. As you probably know, if you've heard any of my other episodes, I like to break down what is occurring. What is occurring so that we can actually decide on purpose how we want to proceed, what steps we want to take, what intentional experience we want to have for ourselves. All right, so when you feel offended, maybe think of a time that you felt offended. Someone said words, someone behaved in some way, something occurred, right? These are the facts of what happened. So we want to strip it down to those facts. We don't want to have any opinions around these facts, just the facts. The words that someone said, the factual way in which they behaved. And then you have a thought about these words. You have a thought about their behavior. You have a thought about what occurred outside of you. And then you feel offended or hurt or upset, right? Because of this thought. You feel offended because the thought you have about their words. You feel offended or hurt or upset because of the thought you have about their actions or about what occurred, about the facts. Their words, their behavior, the facts, whatever occurred, is not creating your feeling. But really, your thought is. Your thought about what they did, about what they said, about what occurred, is creating how you feel. It's really good to break this down and really see what is occurring in order to really decide for yourself how you want to proceed. And it's good to see how much power you have. When we really break this down, since it's not what they're doing or saying or what is occurring factually outside of you that is creating your feelings, it puts the power back into your court, into your hands. Because it's your thought. It's your thought that's creating your feeling. You are in control of how you feel. Best news ever. So if you want to stay having the experience that you're having, it's completely an option for you. And if you want to change your experience, that is completely an option as well. It's just good to be aware and be intentional. That's what I always want for you. Give you that awareness, help you be intentional and purposeful and deliberate with how you want to proceed, with the experience that you have in your life and in your relationships. So now that we know what is actually happening, right? They said words, they behaved in some way, something happened outside of you, the facts occurred, then you had a thought about it, and then you feel offended. And then you feel hurt or upset, right? Now we're going to look at what options you have when you feel offended. The first one is you can keep your thoughts. You can keep your feelings. You can stay offended. The second one is you can set boundaries or even decide that this person doesn't align with your values. And the third is you can decide to feel better on purpose. Now, none of these options are wrong or right or better or worse. I just always suggest that whatever you decide, do it intentionally, as I mentioned. Be deliberate. Decide for yourself. Put yourself in that driver's seat. And then like your reasons for choosing whatever you choose. So if you choose that you want to keep your thoughts and feel offended, like your reason for it. If you decide that you want to set some boundaries and maybe separate yourself from this person who doesn't align with your values, like your reasons for it. If you decide that you want to feel better on purpose, like your reasons for it. All right, so let's look at the first option. The first option is to keep your thought and keep your feeling. Now, just because you know that you have options and you know that you have this way of feeling better, of feeling not offended, right? It doesn't mean that you have to stop feeling this way. It doesn't mean that you have to stop feeling offended. It doesn't mean that you have to change your thought to feel better. Just because that is an option to do that doesn't mean you have to. Sometimes we jump to that. Sometimes now I know that I can feel better. And we realize this and we're so quick to want to feel better. But sometimes we want to feel offended. Sometimes we want to feel bad. Sometimes we want to keep our thoughts. They feel true to us, and they are the ones that we want. We don't always want to feel good. We don't always want to feel happy about everything. That's just not part of life. So your first option is to keep your thought and keep your feeling. Now you may wonder, okay, then what do I do from here? Well, first I suggest that you process this feeling, knowing it's coming from your thought, as we talked about, and that you want to keep it. You have decided intentionally to keep it. And then you can allow yourself to fully feel your feeling. Life is 50-50 with emotions. And maybe this is just part of that 50% of your life that has that negative, quote unquote, emotions. Maybe you can drop into that place where, okay, I feel offended, I feel hurt, I feel sad, I feel disappointed, I feel upset. And this is just that 50% that's going to be negative because I choose to keep my thought and I choose to keep this feeling right now. I choose this experience. I choose this for me right now, and it's not going to last forever, but I choose this for me right now and for my relationship. And that's okay. It's just that negative 50. Nothing has gone wrong right now. I'm going to feel this emotion. I'm going to process it through, and then I can move on. I can move to a different emotion, a different thought, if I choose to. Nothing has gone wrong. The next option, if you choose to, is you can decide to set some boundaries or evaluate your values and if everything is in alignment. So let's dive into how I suggest setting a boundary. Now, boundaries are great to use from a place of love. When setting boundaries, I suggest that they look like this. If the other person who you are setting the boundary for, right, does blank, whatever it is that you don't want them to do, then you will do blank. You will do XYZ, whatever it may be. You are doing something when a boundary is violated, not them. You are taking the actions or inactions when the boundary is violated. They are not doing anything. Now they can stay having whatever behavior they're having. They can behave however they choose to. But you get to as well. You get to behave however you want to as well. And that may mean when they violate your boundary, you leave a room, maybe, or you lock a door, or you don't answer a phone, or you stop a car. When they violate your boundary, maybe you do one of these things. Of course, set your own boundaries, come up with your own, what you will do if they cross that line, right? Now, boundaries aren't meant to control or manipulate the other person. They are set from a place of love for you and them. If you aren't in that place of love, I suggest not venturing into setting a boundary quite yet. Let yourself be in that loving place. Set it from love rather than from trying to control or manipulate or change them. Oftentimes, people set boundaries with the intention for the other person to act differently. But this is just a recipe for failure. You can't control anyone else. And wanting them to behave differently so you can feel better has you at the mercy of their actions or their inactions, right? Instead, I suggest taking your power back, Empower yourself. And if you decide to set boundaries, set them in a way that puts you in control. If they violate your boundary, you will do XYZ. Now next, if you want to assess if they are in line with your values, ask yourself, what are your values? Very simple, right? What is important to you? What do you prioritize in your life? Does this person's behaviors fit with your values? Now, sometimes we find out that their behavior that this person demonstrates is not what you want for you in your life. And sometimes we find out that these actions are a small part of the big picture. And while, yes, you may not like this part of how they are showing up or how they are behaving or what they're saying, you may choose to stay and accept the whole imperfect human. It's just important to remember that we can't change the other person. If they decide to change in some way, that's because they have chosen to. We aren't changing them. You have so much control. It's just knowing where it is and using it to benefit you in your relationship. Your control is internal, not external. So if you keep your offended feelings, know that you are in control of feeling bad. You are in control of the boundaries you may set and your actions if they do something that you don't like. And you're in control if you decide that your values do not align with them and their behavior. Now this brings me to my next option. You can decide to feel better and not feel offended as well. Remember, you feel offended because you have a thought about their behavior, about what they said, about the outside occurrence, right? Their behavior cannot create your feelings. This is the best news because your thoughts are optional. You can decide to focus on certain thoughts and let others go. When I learned this, I was mind blown. I could not believe how much control I had for the experience that I have in my life. I'm still mind blown when I talk about it, sometimes speechless. But you are in so much control. You can focus on certain thoughts and let other ones go. You can decide where to put your energy. You get to decide. You get to choose. As I said, you are in control, so you get to decide for yourself if this is the way to proceed for you. If you want to feel better, it is an option. So if you do want to feel better and you want to shift your perspective, shift your mindset a bit, here are some questions that you can ask yourself. In what ways are they being an imperfect human? In what ways are they being an imperfect human? How do I not always show up as my best self too? How do I not always show up as my best self too? What do you think they are thinking and feeling for them to behave in this way? What do you think they are thinking and feeling for them to behave in this way? These questions may open your mind up to other possibilities, other ways of thinking about the situation. And maybe you'll feel differently. You'll think about what they say, what they do, the outside occurrences, the facts of the situation in a different way. And maybe you'll drop into a different feeling and move away from feeling offended and hurt and upset. So try it out if you want to. So we went over the options you have if you feel offended, but let's touch on communication. Let's touch on communicating what you are going through with your partner. Communicating and connecting in this way can be so powerful and really enhance your experience of your relationship. So if you're saying to yourself, which I know I have, but what about them changing? What about them? What about them adjusting their behavior in some way? I completely hear you. I think we've all been there, right? And yes, you can always make requests of this other person. You can always make requests. And you can always communicate your feelings to them as well. Make all the requests you want. Sometimes the other person genuinely doesn't know you are offended, or maybe they're unaware that you feel hurt or upset or sad or whatever it may be. And by talking to them, by communicating with them, by bringing your feelings to them, they are now wanting to change. And maybe they're happy to adjust in some way. They simply didn't know that you were thinking that. They didn't know your thoughts. They can't read your mind, right? And they didn't know how you were feeling about it all, about their behavior, about what they said or what they did. And now they know. And now they want to change a certain behavior. This could very, very well be the case. But sometimes this isn't the case as well. I just say that by communicating, now they're aware. And if they do genuinely want to change, now they have the option. So communication can really open up and show them maybe what they weren't aware of. And in the cases that it's not the case, that they don't want to change, just know that we can never make another person behave in any way. So when making these requests, I suggest not attaching your feelings to whether they show up how you want them to. You may be setting yourself up for disappointment if you do. And here is the best news. Just because they don't show up how you want them to does not mean you have to feel bad, because you're in control of your feelings. You can still feel good. You can still feel however you choose to feel. Regardless of if they change, communicating what you are going through can be a great way to connect. When you communicate your feelings to them, it's important not to blame them for your feelings. Your feelings come from you. So don't give away your power by handing over control of your feelings to them. Instead, let them know that they did XYZ. They behaved in whatever way. They said whatever they said. And you are feeling offended or hurt or upset. It's a slight difference from saying, when you did this thing, when you said this thing, whatever it is, you offended me, or you hurt me, or you upset me. They aren't creating your feeling, you are. This slight difference allows you to drop the defensiveness, stay away from the blame. It allows you to communicate and be open. And it really allows you to be in your empowered place of, you're in control of your feelings, not them. Empower yourself. Give yourself that power back. By expressing how you are feeling and what you are thinking about their behavior, and not from a judgmental place, but more from an honest place, it allows for more connection between the two of you. It's not saying they need to change for you to feel better, because they don't. You're in control of that. You are so powerful. So bring your feelings to them and communicate. Make all the requests you want. Ask. Make them aware. Talk. Bring it all up. And then however they show up is their choice. And you can decide what is best for you. Stay feeling offended. Set boundaries or separate yourself. Or decide on purpose to feel better. So let's do a quick recap. You feel offended because of how you are thinking about their behavior, about what they say, about the outside occurrences, not because of their behavior. So own your power. But just because you are in control of how you feel, it does not mean you should change your thoughts to feel better. You have so many options to choose from. Let's go over the 3 that I went over. You can keep your thoughts and feelings. And from this place, you can process and allow your feelings. And then if you want to take it further, you can move on to the next option and set those boundaries, or decide that this person doesn't align with your values. Boundaries are what you will do if they violate your boundary, cross that line. Setting boundaries or deciding that they don't align with your values can both be done from a loving place. And this is what I recommend. Drop into that place of love if you choose to set a boundary, or if you choose to complete that relationship. And the next option is you can choose to feel better if you want to. You can shift that perspective, shift your mindset, and you can decide to feel better on purpose. After knowing and being aware that your thoughts are offending you and not their behavior, and then processing your offended feelings, from here, you can ask yourself some questions to shift that mindset, to give yourself other possibilities of what to think and feel. In what ways are they being an imperfect human? How do I not always show up as my best self too? What do you think they are thinking and feeling for them to behave in this way? And lastly, we talked about communication. Communication of your thoughts and of your feelings can lead to connection. Communicate to make the other person aware in case they do genuinely want to adjust how they're behaving. If they truly want to behave in a different way, coming from their wants and their desires, it's great for them to understand where you're coming from, to understand your thoughts and feelings. And communicate to make them aware of what you are going through. Communicating can come in the form of making requests of them, but I suggest to not attach your feelings to whether they do or don't follow through with your requests. You can still feel amazing without them changing anything at all, because you are in charge of how you feel, not them. And to sum everything up, I just want to add that while yes, I believe and I teach that it is your thoughts that are creating your feelings of being offended or hurt or upset, this doesn't mean we should all just be running around behaving however we want, regardless of how others think and feel. I mean, you can. This is an option. That's your choice. But I'm not supporting or suggesting that by any means we disregard others. I like to look at it like, yes, I am not creating their feelings, but why not strive to be kind and nice and aware and sensitive and empathetic and thoughtful? Of course, everyone can behave however they want, and we are all human, and sometimes we don't show up as our best. We are imperfect. This will happen. But when we truly can, when we can strive for being nice and kind and aware and sensitive and empathetic and thoughtful, why not? Why not try to be our best when we can? Why not try and show up as a kind person? It feels so much better to feel kind, to feel nice, to feel thoughtful, to feel loving type feelings, and then in turn show up in these ways. So when it's possible, why not, right? All right. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you can apply these options to your life and just be intentional. Choose for yourself. Know how much power you have. And I'll see you next week for the next episode. If you do want to take all this further, I am here for you. I have one-on-one coaching available. So grab your spot before they fill up. I do have limited spots. So grab your spot, and I would love to see you over Zoom. If you are interested, you can shoot me an email at Whitney@WhitneyWellsCoaching.com, or you can visit my website, WhitneyWellsCoaching.com, and schedule a free 20-minute session. I would love to chat with you. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Do you want to explore these topics further? Are you ready to live the life that you want to live on purpose while controlling what you have control over? I would love to be your life coach. If you're interested, simply head over to WhitneyWellsCoaching.com and book an appointment with me today. I can't wait to work with you.